A momentary history of Nelson Mandela's life. Madiba's life expedition. Known and loved around the world for his commitment to peace, negotiation and reconciliation, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was South Africa's first democratically elected president, 1994 to 1999. Mandela was an anti-apartheid revolutionary and political leader, as well as a philanthropist with an abiding love for children. Mandela was born into the Khoza royal family on the 18th of July 1918 and died on the 5th of December 2013. The early years. Rolihlahla Mandela was born into the Madiba clan in the village of Mbezo, in the Eastern Cape, on the 18th of July 1918. His mother was Nonkapi Nozakeni and his father was Inkosi Mphakanyiswa Gadla Mandela, principal counselor to the acting king of the Tembu people, Jongintaba Dalindyebo. In 1930, when he was 12 years old, his father died and the young Rolihlahla became a ward of Jongintaba at the Great Place in Mkekazweni. Hearing the elders' stories of his ancestors' valor during the wars of resistance, he dreamed also of making his own contribution to the freedom struggle of his people. Education. He attended primary school in Kunu, where his teacher, Miss Mdendane, gave him the name Nelson, in accordance with the custom of giving all schoolchildren Christian names. He completed his junior certificate at Clarkberry Boarding Institute and went on to Healdtown, a Wesleyan secondary school of some repute, where he matriculated. Mandela began his studies for a Bachelor of Arts degree at the University College of Fort Hare but did not complete the degree there as he was expelled for joining in a student protest. On his return to the Great Place at Mkekazweni, the king was furious and said if he didn't return to Fort Hare he would arrange wives for him and his cousin Justice. They ran away to Johannesburg instead, arriving there in 1941. There he worked as a mine security officer, and after meeting Walter Sisulu, an estate agent, he was introduced to Lazar Sidelski. He then did his articles through a firm of attorneys, Witkin, Eidelman and Sidelski. He completed his BA through the University of South Africa and went back to Fort Hare for his graduation in 1943. University. Meanwhile, he began studying for an LLB at the University of the Witwatersrand. By his own admission, he was a poor student and left the university in 1952 without graduating. He only started studying again through the University of London after his imprisonment in 1962 but also did not complete that degree. In 1989, while in the last months of his imprisonment, he obtained an LLB through the University of South Africa. He graduated in absentia at a ceremony in Cape Town. Entering politics, Mandela, while increasingly politically involved from 1942, only joined the African National Congress in 1944 when he hoped to form the ANC Youth League, ANCYL. In 1944 he married Walter Sisulu's cousin, Evelyn Mays, a nurse. They had two sons, Madiba Tembekile, Tembi, and Magatho, and two daughters both called Makaziwa, the first of whom died in infancy. He and his wife divorced in 1958. Mandela rose through the ranks of the ANCYL and through its efforts, the ANC adopted a more radical mass-based policy, the Program of Action, in 1949. National Volunteer-in-Chief. In 1952, he was chosen as the National Volunteer-in-Chief of the Defiance Campaign with Maldi Kachalia as his deputy. This campaign of civil disobedience against 6 unjust laws was a joint program between the ANC and the South African Indian Congress. He and 19 others were charged under the Suppression of Communism Act for their part in the campaign and sentenced to 9 months of hard labor, suspended for 2 years. Mandela and Tambo. A 2-year diploma in law on top of his BA allowed Mandela to practice law, and in August 1952 he and Oliver Tambo established a law firm called Mandela and Tambo. At the end of 1952 he was banned for the first time. As a restricted person he was only permitted to watch in secret as the Freedom Charter was adopted in Kliptown on the 26th of June 1955. The treason trial. Mandela was arrested in a countrywide police swoop on the 5th of December 1956, which led to the 1956 treason trial. Men and women of all races found themselves in the dock in the marathon trial that only ended when the last 28 accused, including Mandela, were acquitted on the 29th of March 1961. State of emergency. On the 21st of March 1960, police killed 69 unarmed people in a protest in Sharpeville against the pass laws. This led to the country's first state of emergency and the banning of the ANC and the Pan-Africanist Congress, PAC, on the 8th of April. Mandela and his colleagues in the treason trial were among thousands detained during the state of emergency. Spear of the Nation. Days before the end of the treason trial, Mandela traveled to Pietermaritzburg to speak at the All in Africa conference, which resolved that he should write to Prime Minister Verwoerd requesting a national convention on a non-racial constitution, and to warn that should he not agree there would be a national strike against South Africa becoming a republic. After he and his colleagues were acquitted in the treason trial, Mandela went underground and began planning a national strike for 29, 30 and the 31st of March. In the face of massive mobilization of state security, the strike was called off early. In June 1961, he was asked to leave the armed struggle and help to establish Umkhonto we Sizwe, Spear of the Nation, which launched on the 16th of December 1961 with a series of explosions. Marriage. During the trial, Mandela married a social worker, Winnie Madikizela, on the 14th of June 1958. They had two daughters, Zanani and Zindiswa. The couple divorced in 1996. Undercover. On the 11th of January 1962, using the adopted name David Motsamedi, Mandela secretly left South Africa. He traveled around Africa and visited England to gain support for the armed struggle. He received military training in Morocco and Ethiopia and returned to South Africa in July 1962. He was arrested in a police roadblock outside Howick on the 5th of August while returning from KwaZulu-Natal, where he had briefed ANC President Chief Albert Luthuli about his trip. Sentenced to 5 years in prison. He was charged with leaving the country without a permit and inciting workers to strike. He was convicted and sentenced to 5 years imprisonment, which he began serving at the Pretoria local prison. On the 27th of May 1963, he was transferred to Robben Island and returned to Pretoria on the 12th of June. Within a month, police raided Lillesley, a secret hideout in Rivonia, Johannesburg, used by ANC and Communist Party activists, and several of his comrades were arrested. The Rivonia trial. On the 9th of October 1963, Mandela joined 10 others on trial for sabotage in what became known as the Rivonia trial. While facing the death penalty, his words to the court at the end of his famous speech from the dock on the 20th of April 1964 became immortalized. During my lifetime, I have dedicated my life to this struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons will live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal for which I hope to live for and to see realized. But, my Lord, if it needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. Speech from the dock. Quote by Nelson Mandela on the 20th of April 1964. Robben Island. On the 11th of June 1964, Mandela and 7 other accused, Walter Sisulu, Ahmed Kathrada, Govan Mbeki, Raymond Malaba, Dennis Goldberg, Elias Motsoaledi and Andrew Malangeni, were convicted and the next day were sentenced to life imprisonment. Goldberg was sent to Pretoria prison because he was white, while the others went to Robben Island. Life in prison. Mandela's mother died in 1968 and his eldest son, Tembi, in 1969. He was not allowed to attend their funerals. From freedom to liberation. On the 31st of March 1982, Mandela was transferred to Pollsmoor prison in Cape Town with Sisulu, Malaba and Malangeni. Kathrada joined them in October. When he returned to the prison in November 1985 after prostate surgery, Mandela was held alone. Justice Minister Kobe Coetzee visited him in hospital. Later Mandela initiated talks about an ultimate meeting between the apartheid government and the ANC. Released from prison. On the 12th of August 1988 he was taken to hospital where he was diagnosed with tuberculosis. After more than 3 months in 2 hospitals he was transferred on the 7th of December 1988 to a house at Victor Verster prison near Paarl where he spent his last 14 months of imprisonment. He was released from its gates on Sunday the 11th of February 1990, 9 days after the unbanning of the ANC and the PAC and nearly 4 months after the release of his remaining Rivonia comrades. Throughout his imprisonment he had rejected at least 3 conditional offers of release. Nobel Peace Prize. Mandela immersed himself in official talks to end white minority rule and in 1991 was elected ANC president to replace his ailing friend, Oliver Tambo. In 1993, he and President F.W. de Klerk jointly won the Nobel Peace Prize and on the 27th of April 1994 he voted for the first time in his life. President. On the 10th of May 1994 he was inaugurated as South Africa's first democratically elected president. On his 80th birthday in 1998 he married Graca Machel, his third. A momentary history of Nelson Mandela.